This is the KST electric Secateur kit from Kebtek with extension pole. Let's see if they're any good. Not much packaging. Let's see what you get in the box. Instructions, the secateurs, spare blade, tools and an oil bottle, charger and 2 batteries. Let's go through the features. The hardened steel blades are Teflon coated and the secateurs have a 40mm cut diameter, which is about 2 inches. Both of the included batteries are 21 volt, 2000 milliamp hour batteries, and the batteries look like a strangely familiar design. I'm not allowed to talk about the brand that they're compatible with. Some Secateur manufacturers put in a safety feature where if you touch the blade or the trigger with your other hand and you're touching the handle in the right place, they won't allow the secateurs to close. This gives you a false sense of security. Kebtek don't even have it, and I'm kind of glad because you can bypass that feature by holding the secateurs wrong anyway and put yourself in a lot of danger. You're much better off learning how to use these things properly. Let's go through a couple of key rules when you're using these. Rule number 1, don't forget your speed dealers. Eyes are expensive, secateurs are cheap. Rule number 2, don't ever hold on to your pruning with this thing. Stick it in your pocket and keep it there. Because fingers are really hard to glue back on. For smaller pruning jobs like this vineyard, when you want to go fast, you can actually hold the trigger down for a few seconds and wait for a beep, and that halves your pruning cut, meaning that your secateurs will be faster in moving from fully open to fully closed, speeding up your work. There's another really cool feature to these secateurs that I've only seen in really professional models costing way more, and that is proportional control. If I hold the trigger down while I press the start button and wait for a second beep, when I wake them up, that then turns the blades into a proportional control. They open and close with the movement of my finger rather than acting as a pressure switch. And that can be really important when you're working around wires and doing complex pruning tasks. Quick tip, when you're cutting off wires, never cut across the wire. Always come in on an angle, and that way, even if your blade does happen to hit the wire, it will skid off it and won't do damage to either the blade or the wire. All right, let's see how strong the brushless motor is. This is 30mm or about 1.25 inch self-seated Plum. No problem at all. 40mm diameter cherry. No problem. An important test I always like to do with secateurs is not just how big a cut can they make, but how accurately and carefully can they make fine cuts. Do they tear the plant material? Do they induce disease? That's a nice fine cut. There's also another really cool adjustment while you're in proportional mode that will help even further with the light and delicate cuts, and that is if you hit the power button 5 times, not 4, not 6, don't know why they chose 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll hear a beep, and that means that you can then choose how far your blade closes on the anvil, and you can choose the amount of overlap. So if you're doing really tight pruning, you can set the overlap and not crush your material. Conversely, if you're doing really heavy pruning, you can set the blades for a really high overlap and you can get real crushing force into the cut. But it's not bad. I probably won't use this feature very often, but it's good to know it's there. 1 inch gum tree. That's improved the view. This time we'll try a 40mm cut through Pasprum. Well, it got there in the end. So while it will cut through 40mm timber, using a bit of wrist action as well, the engine's not quite capable of getting through some of the thicker types of wood at its maximum cut. Things like pine should be fine on. Of course, I don't recommend pruning on ladders, especially not with electric secateurs. So if you're going to be pruning trees, that's where you should really think about the pole. The pole itself has had a few upgrades since the last one I reviewed. Most notably, two things. The first is you get this angle adjustment, allowing various angles of the cutter head, which could be really handy. And you have two length adjustments here and here. And that gives you a total of about 2.7 meters of reach. And that means most of your cutting jobs are never out of reach. Something else I like about the pole is that the cam locks are now adjustable, meaning that as the pole wears from wear and tear, you can actually adjust it up. The pole should last a lot longer. It's really well made. I don't know about this strap though. It's handy when you're reaching out for a long distance, but it makes using them around trees a bit awkward. It could use a bit of a rethink, but it does come in handy. I really like these. You can't hide anymore, my pretty. If you've already got a set of Kebteks and you're interested in the pole, they'll work with Kebtek Secateurs made after 2023. If you've got earlier models, you have to upgrade the motherboard in the Secateurs to be compatible with the new pole. The usual story. So if this review cut through the nonsense for you and you found it useful, there's a free way you can support the channel, and that is hit that little subscribe button down there and give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week with something else cutting edge. A test I always like to do with secateurs is not just how big a cut can they make, but it's also how precise a cut they... Oh, you're right.